I think Dr. James has read the quote, and it's Googleable. So I would invite you to take a look at the quote and then come back and feel free to jump into the conversation.
I noticed no one has addressed the exact quote from Kennedy where I read, every black kid is now just standard put on Adderall, SSRIs, benzos, which are known to induce violence. And somehow that doesn't make you squirm a little bit, that the guy in charge of Health and Human Services said.
I think it makes us all squirm. Yeah, we all squirm.
I think it's utterly disgusting. And then you have this mindset that this is all children. It's like very selective. And I think that's what makes it very disturbing as well. I like when I first heard about it, I watched the video and then I read it. And I was like, why is this okay? Why is this motherfucker has anything to do with healthcare? Why has he not been booted out? But, once again, I guess it doesn't matter. It's just one little thing. And I think everybody's just worried about one little thing. I'm worried about many, many, many things that have come out of his mouth. But, hey, it's just
I got to put the sarcasm on really early so nobody misinterprets this. But I think it's because of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that we needed some people with court-filed, self-professed brain damage and no medical background in the medical field, especially directing programs. You have to include those conspiracy theorist white guys who are very incapable. Without it, we won't get the kind of diversity we need in healthcare because we need those opinions of people who have never practiced medicine to tell us how medicine works. And people with brain damage, the heads off of whales and dump dead bears in Central Park because, there aren't many people with their unique voices around our So, yeah, you look at this administration and I think why people don't react maybe is that it feels so obvious, like the racism and hatred and bigotry is so systemic. Like if you look at that quote when they start screaming about DEI, when that one, I think it was the senator, asked them, how are you to know about racial disparities and maternal mortality if you don't look at racial demographics and look at these facts? And his response is something like, we're getting rid of woke ideology. Who does woke ideology help? And she's like, how are you going to know about Black maternal mortality and death rates? And I'm like, that's not there. And that's one of the other secrets. Like if you just plug your ears, blame it on something else, and don't look at the realities, you can say anything. You can be like, this racism is wrong because the people calling out racism have looked at the numbers, and that's what's racist, like our Supreme Court says. So it's a system of entrenching power. And yeah, the narrative that Black people are inherently violent just subtly slid in there, or the idea that, Black women can't be dying more or suffering in the healthcare system because it's already equitable. All those like tropes just power. In the end, they just serve to entrench these people that don't deserve what they have. That's why it's so cancerous, right? They're leeching off a system that will destroy it. And a lionization of ignorance. I'm fine with the law as simple as the director of our healthcare system should be an expert in healthcare. But you get these people now with podcasts and everything else where it's like, oh, if I'm a public-facing figure and I interview these people and talk with them, that means I'm an expert just like them. Joe Rogan is the same as a physicist because he had a physicist on his show. And then, I believe, I'd have to double-check this, but I think RFK, and I certainly know Joe Rogan and others, have even said, you can't trust me, I'm an idiot. And then we give these people power, and it's just like, God, where's it, when does it happen?
Yeah, and when Joe Rogan does invite somebody like Eric Weinstein, who's a trained physicist, even if you think he sounds cocky, he's actually quite humble, relatively speaking, believe it or not, because he acknowledges that there are super genius physicists out there, like Edward Witten, and he says he has a hard time tracking that. And then Joe Rogan in that episode was like, oh, okay, well, then I guess I don't understand anything, And so, you get that once in a while, but I don't feel like it's front and center enough, or at least, like a reminder. Maybe there's a way to fix this, maybe not cognitively, maybe not psychologically, but maybe with tools. Give people the ability to kind of interrogate these questions. So maybe these agentic platforms, you can say, hey, I was watching RFK, what's good about what he's saying, what's not good, what's problematic, where can we fix things? But not just accepting what they're saying on face value, I think is super important. And Dr. James was critical enough to point it out to me that these kinds of discussions are co-opted for these kind of movements, and it's not always appropriate to bunch them together. So to me, that's like a win. I went in with, wanting Dr. James to push back on something that I came across. And I got thrown in the ocean, not just pushed off the deck. So I appreciate the swim, Dr. James. You took us all with.
I'd like to learn how to teach and learn how to learn as a group and not learn how to be angry, because this shit makes me angry and I could just sit here and be angry about it. But I'd like to get a new administration into office. We could do that as a group. That'd be great.
I was a little confused what you meant by that. Do you mind? I think I might resonate with you, but I'm not sure. Can you explain? And this is very genuine. Can you explain what you mean, or like where you're coming from?
What I mean by what I just said?
It might just be a me problem where I didn't uptake it right, but I think, yeah, I misunderstood you.
I'm saying when someone says something, it's to grab attention. Politics is all about attention, but it's not teaching us what we need to do as a society to move forward, as opposed to just sit and be angry at someone who's a fucking idiot. Like, this guy sounds like a moron. The quotes are moronic.
Right now, Maha is essentially trying to connect SSRI use to opiate dependence, and there is a sort of solution that's been proposed. He ran on this, which is that they want to create, farms, camps for our kids and our adults to go to, rehabilitate and to go work hard in the sun and, essentially grow organic food, and because food heals everything, and, a little God in the mix, perhaps. It's insane. And it wouldn't, and it's true. That's the thing. And there's been a push more and more in this direction. So that's kind of what this stemmed from, was my response to something that Io shared with me, because I understood the context of the Maha, who was pushing kind of this idea of, the framing of somehow SSRIs are equivalent to opiates.
I understand, and that's your industry, and that would make me pissed off if my industry too. So I understand that.
Only because people, the fact that so many people are dying by suicide, and those numbers have increased. Those numbers have increased. Like,
Jimmy, thanks for clarifying that. And I think I get what you're saying. Is like, you would rather people be didactic and educational than attention grabbing. And I think that's, if I understand you correct, I think that's a really fair thing to ask of leaders. But I think our current media ecosystem has made that, if I'm understanding you correctly, like, untenable. Because if somebody comes up, like, I was so fascinated by the previous, I believe it was, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the director, the lead Surgeon General, who used to talk about, like, the crisis of loneliness. And I didn't think it was initially as serious. And then I looked into medical data, and it was shocking. And it was educational. I could hear him talk and learn something. But I don't think he'll be remembered. And right now, with the media cycle, you need to be constantly remembered and gotten attention to be worth anything. So I think that might feed into what I think it obviously feeds into what you're talking about. And I think we've also started to demonize education. I think that's been a long-term move by authoritarians and quite liberal fascists, that the educated elites are bad. And they are elites. They're not just people that have learned something. Like, as a literal teacher at one of these elite institutions, we're not better. We're just, like, know this thing in the same way, like, I would never pretend to tell somebody how to do. Right now they're doing roofing next door. That guy knows infinitely more than me about roofing. He could tell me what to do all day long. So I think we've done something where it's like, oh, if you're educated, you understand stuff better. And on the flip side, I do think even within academia, this everything from publish or perish to get attention has become so strong that they, in the end, start feeding into this cycle, and it's just really brutal.
Well, isn't disdain for education, isn't that one of the 14 indicators of fascism?
Yeah. It's just a lot of times when you talk about it, you get triggered, so I'm trying to be soft. But yeah, like it's one of the first things that fascist authoritarians as well. Like it's a classic playbook, right? Destroy the universities, destroy the academia, because if it studies and can describe a thing, then then it can critique the thing and engage with it.
Can I say something that's not popular, Briar? And I've noticed this in group things, or if I'm in a group room in Clubhouse. If I say something that's not popular that rubs people the wrong way, it's taken as, no, not now, don't do that, you're messing up the conversation, as opposed to, let's rub someone the wrong way, like Dr. James is really angry, let's get angry together and create someone that wants to step up and be a leader. In other words, why are we so afraid to get angry and get people pissed off? Like what happened to the America that I used to live in, where we would go down to the town hall and protest in the streets, not because we needed a permit or blah, 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 but we just fucking got angry and did shit. Like, where is that in America? Is everyone afraid to get arrested or get thrown in a Maha concentration camp or ICE take us away? Like,
Is that not a legitimate fear?
I think we're at a point where if we're just going to try to argue facts with these kinds of people, like when we try to explain like why we think something is a fact, these kinds of people will view our facts as threats, and they will not, then they're going to double down on their nonsense stuff. I'm not sure that like this is the correct approach. Maybe it might be more. I mean, these people like they already know that like. Trump is a bad guy, and like they kind of generally hate the stuff that he does, but they trust him, which is kind of a weird juxtaposition. So I don't know. Like this, they're already aware that like already aware of a lot of this stuff. Like every time we criticize like the Maha movement or the MAGA movement or like the Iran war, or like Venezuela or whatever it might be, the endless wars, the lack of moral fortitude about at the Epstein files, for example, they're already aware of all this stuff. So it's not enough anymore to simply point out the facts to them. They're already aware of what they are. So I don't know. What do you guys think is the next thing? We have to find a way to like help these people like deconstruct from I don't know whatever this.
Really feel what you said there, and I think to what both of you said, I think, look, somebody close to that friend I referenced earlier, my longest lifelong friend, the friend, literal friend of a friend, but one of their closest friends was the Buddhist peace activist that was locked up and tried to be sent to an El Salvadorian prison and missed the birth of his child, because he said he was against any conflict in the Middle East, and he is not for the killing of any life. And since he was from a Palestinian descent, his Buddhism and advocating for universal peace was taken as a reason to remove him from his university, where he was an honor student and student leader, and engaged in literal peace activism. And he was locked in a jail and missed the birth of his first child. Right now, the FBI is investigating somebody who did accurate critical reporting of Kash Patel. If you are not a citizen, my partner from Germany, they're talking Germany because they're detaining German citizens who won't unlock all their social media, and if they have critical posts of Trump, are detaining them for days where they're denied access to even lawyers or their counsel general, which is in violation of international treaty. So that's a real threat. right? This isn't like some, and the thing is, people will try and kind of do that move of, oh, you're so woo-woo, this isn't happening, as it's happening. So, okay, that's one component. Yes, there's a legit fear. But let's say you're a born and raised, white male American Christian, red-blooded American who's everything that you think of as not being targeted, and they march up to protest. Right now, the system, the new gerrymandering laws and everything that's set up, the electors are picking their representatives. I'm not saying that protest and speech, but we've had record-breaking protests every year for the last several years protesting what's going on. I don't think that moved the needle very much, and the protests are very weak. So you see these town halls, and Team Red comes up and screams, and Team Blue comes up and screams. A couple people get arrested, and yes, at local places, they're literally like arresting these people that are, following the rules, and the next one comes and does it, but they're on their team. We've made everybody so amped up and angry that going out and expressing outrage feeds the system. It thrives on that. I don't think somebody yelling, and I think I'm not saying it's useless or feckless or we can't weaponize it or do something good with it or constructive, because all those things can happen. But I think the idea of, if Mr. Smith goes to Washington and screams and protests at an injustice, things change. No, Congress is hardly ever in session and pass almost nothing. Like the amount of work being done is done behind closed doors with judicial activists saying guns need to be everywhere except anywhere they are while they set the rules. It's the hypocrisy and insulation of the powerful where they want people outraged and screaming. Like, if all the left just disappeared and all the right wing that's in power had utter absolute power, there would be this break, because when people are upset, where to go? But while there's these two kind of mediocre, middle of the road, this argument that it just drifts. And right now, if we're being honest, the drift has just been to the right. It's like we have the center right party talking about how insane the far right party is. So let's meet in the middle at like the right. And then, okay, so the right's fine and they're like extreme fascists. Let's just meet at far rightism. And it's demonstrably been happening in America. Like, name the last president that didn't drop bombs in the Middle East and try and attack people. It's just become, I feel that need for rage, but I guess the question is like unchanneled rage. I keep saying it. I think the only thing that will be effective, the only time I've seen a real change, it's such a stupid little thing, is when prices gets too high and people will literally resist, or when everybody does an economic. So I think screaming at a town hall won't do much. Getting organized will, or having a general economic strike that's targeted towards businesses. Disney caved when they lost money instantly. Meta and Facebook and all these companies, all this crap, they'll do whatever they can. Google, Apple, they'll flip-flop to whoever has power. But if everybody stopped buying their products, they are, again, just greed and power. So, but I think right now we're so divided that it feels so feckless. What do we do?
You just said it. You just said exactly what to do. Don't buy the services. Don't be a part of that services. Create a campaign that communicates for other people why it's so great to not be a part of Disney and get rid of your Disney Plus. Start a movement. Start a bagel shop where you cut a bagel in half. One side is Republican, the other side's a Democrat. And you go to the condiments and you see exactly how much of our tax dollars are taken out by representing how much cream cheese is in the condiment dish. And teach people how much the lobbyists, it's not the people that are in office, it's the lobbyists that stay there for 30, 40, 50 years that are fucking with all of the people that go in there to help the people, that are good people trying to work in Congress, work as senators, work for the American people, but get co-opted because of that system. Start a movement that educates. And if no one wants to do that, let's just stay ignorant.
Has anyone heard of Bank Transfer Day?
Yes, I've done that. I've heard of it.
You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, you can transfer your money out of banks that you don't want to participate in and go to local credit unions. Move the money locally. And that does hurt economies, and it does raise up your local economy. So that's always a good movement.
Thank you for that. I may just do that.
Yeah, one of the only
very
pushbacks, the only pushback I get on that is, I already have my stuff and it's inconvenient.
It's just a matter of reprogramming your direct deposits and reprogramming how you pay your bills automatically. Nobody does banking anymore.
I think there's some truth to that. And by the way, like, I would just echo, for whatever it's worth, if anybody wants to hear from another voice, credit unions are extraordinarily legit. Like, and banks are shady as hell and probably hurting you if you're there. You're a tool, whereas you're an owner with the credit union. But to your point on education, here's what I found as a literal educator and teacher. People right now hate being taught to. They like choosing who to learn from. So if, let's say, I don't know, Jordan and Io each go make podcasts, and one extols the virtue of AI and one extols the virtue of psychedelics for solving the same problem. The problem is right now that this is the pro and con of decentralization. You can find your own microcosm to learn about whatever you want. So people really hate when somebody teaches something as like objectively true that is challenging or limiting, and they resist that. And because there's so ubiquitous access to information, and again, information can be true or false or propagandist or whatever, and we've been conditioned to be so commercialized that we're used to being propagandized and marketed to everywhere, that I think it's really hard to engage in what would be in academic circles called good pedagogy. Challenging assumptions, trying to have a rational basis, engaging in community, trying to have some grounding in what we teach, making sure we're being self-critical. But, so that idea of, are there people that are trying to teach all the hell over? Like, I'm a professional teacher, I walk around a lot of other people. We try and do community events and we try and do different things. But what tends to happen is an environmental group wants to do something on the benefits of how recycling could be done effectively. So everybody who's already informed and cares about that shows up. And I'm being a little bit hyperbolic. Like, there's 1% to 2% that's like, oh, this is new to me and I want to learn. But I think what you're talking about is like, oh, challenge the system and critically engage and stuff like that. And that's usually people are already on board or they're there. So I guess what I see happening more and more is people just trying to give their opinion on the solution for what's happening, which is useful, right? And if you look at a lot of podcasting that's educational, it's either just, here's this bird you'd never heard of and why it's so important in the environment, or it's like, that bird was important being killed off, we think this is the solution. But a lot of times it's really weird. It's like on this app, if you start teaching something or saying something, in most spaces they'll want the other side there because they don't want to be taught to, they want to be entertained by the debate about what it's about and why it matters. It's a really weird thing, and you can see it on this app all the time.
It's what's ruined CNN when they changed the format like that, right? Just having talking heads opposing, and supposedly that makes it more interesting to a viewer, but I can't stand it.
It's exhausting. Y'all know I do some media stuff, and I was kind of off of a show as a recurring guest because they said I was too moderate. I was like, oh, she's too reasonable. Like, we mix it up, and I was like, oh, okay, well then I'm not the right one for you. So feel free, carry on, mix it up as you would.
It's so funny because I think you are very, I wonder if they meant moderate or you're, I just think of the right word, like non-graceful, like you're not non-confrontational, but there's some degree, oh, you don't want to just, you shut down argument often. And I think what they meant is they want that because I don't know, I think, what's that, Amber?
They want that back and forth. Because if you shut it down, you don't have the conflict of you going back and forth with the points.
Exactly.
Once it's shut down, it is what it is.
Yeah, I was like, you don't want me to be right? Well, I mean, you'll just come out and you'll just like say something and it'll just end the argument. huh? I was like, okay.
Exactly what we need.
Like,
Stupidity of the arguments.
That's what the society needs, but that's not what they need.
Yeah, exactly.
They need conflict. Conflict makes people tune in.
Right. I think it's a really interesting fact to get the bulk of your information and the original intention. I mean, if I was being generous, I'd say, okay, it's great to kind of hear both sides of an issue, right? That's like debate 101 from high school, but it's really gotten to a point where it's just entertainment. It's not about getting to some clarity around the issue. And it's bizarre in a 24-hour news environment. Like, you have all the time in the world. Why do we have to answer this in 45 seconds? Why did you choose that format as a way to kind of address this like huge problem? I think it's bizarre. And then the flip side of it is Joe Rogan can talk for 3 hours. And and it's successful. So like what you're saying isn't even true about attention spans and whatever. So I think it's just a fascinating place that we've come to, and to how we discuss things and how we think about things.
I think a lot of this comes down to, I love, I missed who it was who said like it's profitable for them, or is it good for them? I think one thing I think about a lot is like obviously debate's my career, and I think about high school debate, and it's extraordinarily problematic. Like that's why I'm always one toe in and out, and a huge part of my teaching is literally just encouraging kids to be critical of what they're doing and think about it, because it does encourage, like, as long as debate is a game, and that's what we've kind of turned life into, this kind of kayfabe of making everything performative, then okay, like, should we, today's debate topic, are black people 3/5 of a human? Let's have a really good debate on it. And you're going to be on this side, and you're going to be on that side, and let's talk about their humanity. And this, a long time ago, started to become an issue of like, well, is that good? Like, we're picking the topics. So a huge thing of a debate is like, what topic? What's the format? Do we all have to disagree? Can we all agree with the topic? And sometimes this limiting of it can lead you to a really higher place, where you end up like not engaging with the topic, but engaging with the system, or engaging with how we engage with this kind of meta conversation of what you're doing. But it makes it very insular and unreal. And I actually see that reflected in our real life. I see that with our media and stuff like that, where it's like the performative, like, let's bring on the left winger, right winger. They just killed 3 babies. How's that going to help them? Gas prices are up. Will that affect Democrats in the midterm? Did Biden up gas prices? Oh, by the way, 1 million people died. Okay, back to, you. What do you think about on this and that? And it's this performative joke. And what I've been trying to do myself is, I don't think there's a way out of that, really, with how it is, because all framed is like good and bad. Which team are you on? So I've been trying to make things, this might sound kind of weird, but algorithmic in a very human way. Like, if you want humans to survive, does this conflict help humans survive? If you want the economy to thrive, does this make the economy thrive? Do you want people healthier? Does putting them in work camps make them healthier? Because it forces us to like have some grounding where we're together. And I just wish like our politicians and our leaders and our media, it's one of the only ways I've found, like, when I get my hair ready to pull out on Clubhouse, I'm stupid enough to go into a room where people are arguing. That's a lot of times where I take it. Do you want this thing? Does this reach this thing? Let's just talk about that. Yeah, that's the only way I know.
I see that Elliot just came to the stage. Hi, Elliot. What'd you like to add?
I was just gonna say, like obviously they're all kind of they've got the wrong idea about. I mean, everybody isn't. I mean like just about everybody is an expert at identifying problems and faults in some kind of system or another. Like human beings are just kind of naturally very good at this kind of thing. So, but like the solutions that people have to the problems can be very different. Like a lot of the. Like when you actually go and like you talk to these people, Maha Naga type people, like a lot of their concerns are just the kinds of concerns that like everybody has. Like my bank account is shrinking. Like my mother is 73 and she's just lost her health insurance and she can't get a job. I'm like, it's stuff like this, everyday stuff like that. Like, how am I going to feed my family? You know, just either not right to just sweep those under the rug.
Oh, you're in the matrix. You're in the matrix.
It's just so crap.
Toward that direction, not necessarily toward the face.
You're in the
but toward
matrix
that-
a little bit for me.
That
My bad.
Yeah.
You think about on this, Matt, and it's this performative joke. And what I've been trying to do myself is, I don't think.
JL said, I think Clubhouse is having issues. Steve, I'm trying to bring you up. I see that you raised your hand, but can you go out and come back in? Maybe that'll help us skip.
I'm so sorry. I raised my hand inadvertently. Carry on and ignore me.
You were not. It's not possible to ignore me.
I was so wondering why 7 people invited me simultaneously. I'm like, was something said that people think my input would be useful? It was completely accidental. Ignore.
A moment of levity. There used to be this show, and my favorite character on it was like a 15-foot tall character that would just come around and yell at people as loud as it could to ignore him. And so I can feel Steve coming up to any room and being like, no, please ignore me. It's just the best attention getter you could do. But speaking of laws, did you guys see that? And I just love this, on a 4-3 decision, Virginia struck down their new electoral gerrymandering, while 4 more Republican states have announced gerrymandering that will get rid of, in like Tennessee's case, the only black district, which they immediately did after the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, which they said, wouldn't do anything. So when we were talking about division and stuff like that, it's functionally completely now come down to politicians picking their electorate. And if they can slice them up enough, and with good AI algorithms and more targeted data and social media information, the government, they can probably very effectively slice it out. So it's a great time to be an American.
In Soviet America, politicians pick you.
I don't know if you
Do you
guys can
think
hear me,
it's
but
gonna enough Congress people though to not let the Dems take the House?
We'll see.
I think Ellie.
they did that. It was
Elliot, are you trying to talk? Because I see you unmiked, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could hear me. I only have like 2 bars on my.
Well, I heard that.
Okay. Oh, geez, man. Yeah, it's a bummer. The Virginia thing, I think the court, was it the Virginia Supreme Court? They struck it down on like a technicality because they said that at the special session that was called in order to pass this the gerrymandering thing was actually, it has to be called specifically for that purpose. And so because it wasn't called explicitly for that purpose and for some other reason, they said, they struck it down because of that. But that's just a silly technicality. The state legislature could just call another special session and do it the right way. And there you go. So I don't think this is going to.
Yeah, it's a bummer. The idea of kind of like, this is my woe is me kind of statement, like this feeling like only one side has to follow the rules. This set of mores that's just applied so intensely on one side and not the other. I hate asymmetry in the way that it's happening, right?
I think the legislators who are calling for this stuff, they should be outed, like really publicize the exact names of these people that are behind this stuff. Shame them.
But would it shame them? I think winning is everything.
But you have to have shame to feel shame.
Yeah,
No,
like,
everybody else.
I think
can
shame
put
is
it on
dead.
them. No, have it for history. And when things go back to normal, start moving in another direction, then we'll see.
Yeah, I think that shame is an interesting concept in these conversations. I think I'm not seeing a ton of shame. I'm seeing a lot of victory around successfully advancing, their objective. I think it's interesting. But it makes all of this really difficult because, you look at something and you say, wow, this is wrong. And that only works if the other side thinks it's wrong too. But I'm not seeing a ton of.
I feel like I need a cigarette after this chat we've all had today. I mean, I really feel like we've all like had a wild time in bed. IO is to blame for the entire thing, by the way.
Fucking Canadians.
IO's got that mad scientist energy.
Jersey James sure was in the house.
Oh yeah, Jibbit, chip.
Dr. James, I'm sorry. I just came in this room to tell you, last Saturday we were talking and I was trying to get you to play the sports book to invest your money into the Philadelphia 76ers so you
What
get a
ended?
ton of money. They ended up winning, and it was the first time they were a team down 3-1 ever won. So you would have made a lot.
So you gave me good financial advice that I didn't take, and
No,
now
I gave you bad betting sports advice that was stupid, and if you had listened to me, you would have had a lot of money.
therein lies the rub. I can see the allure.
But I'm using that as a metaphor for what's going on in our country right now, because that's kind of where we're at. A bunch of people didn't want, these stupid people in Drain the Swamp. We don't want these corrupt people in our government. Let's vote for someone who's not a government person. Let's vote for Trump. He'll take care of us. And look how that went. That didn't go.
I was watching a documentary on Hunter S. Thompson last night, and this whole gonzo form of political writing, and I feel like we need a few Hunter S. Thompsons to come in and just get in the con.
I'm not familiar. Who's Hunter S. Thompson?
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Essentially, he used the character in this book. He was a political writer. I say back in the day, back in the 70s or something, that he would. He didn't just talk politics directly about the thing in a literal way. He talked about the entire context of it, like the zoo, the landscape of, so like if he were reporting on, let's say some horse race, he wouldn't report on the horses who won. He would report on all the people who come to see it and all the different, culture and people groups within it, and kind of the way, kind of the grotesque nature of the entire process itself, and had kind of a meta way he would dissect it by taking things to kind of its ultimate extreme. And so he had this character that he built around himself that the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was about, for example, where it was basically a way for him to say the things he wanted to say, but through the vehicle of a character that was extremely extreme, I guess, for lack of a better word. But he was also an extreme character in real life too. So it was almost like he created a fictional character that was actually him to be the vehicle of what he wanted to say. I just feel like it kind of fits
feats.
And his form of reporting was called Gonzo, Giolenzio.
Mine is the head of the man, and my insight is keen as the hawk's. By my head I invoke I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. About me shine the diamonds of radiance white and pure. By their brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle reverse, the sign given of none save it be of thee, O Lord. By the Lamb I invoke thee. Mine is the garment of white, sewn with gold, the flashing of thy land I wear. By my robe I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of the prophets and time. By the sign I invoke Mine is the turban of white and gold, and mine the blue vigor of the intimate air. By my crown I invoke thee. My fingers travel on the beads of pearl, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. I bear the wand of double power in the voice of the Master. Abraham of Lord, by the Lord I invoke Mine are the dark blue waves of music in the song that I made of old. To invoke Draw the flaming sword, crown, child, and conquering Lord, Horus, Avenger. By the song I invoke thee. In my hand is thy sword of revenge. Let it strike at thy bidding. By the sword I invoke eyes keen as the hawk's by my bed I invoke thee. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. About me shine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure. By their brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triumph